It's a Scott Sands Show.
Hey there, how y'all doing? It's a special Tuesday night bonus episode of the Scott Sands Show podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so on whatever platform you download podcasts. I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio, of course. Normally I post on YouTube and Facebook, the Scott Sands Show as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to post this to YouTube or not. There's no video. This is an audio-only episode. Why am I popping in on a random Tuesday night for a podcast episode? Well, I'll tell you. Just got home a little while ago from a great event at Wildwood Metro Parks. The Protect Prosperity Tax Day Rally. Got a lot of great people. Had a slate of fantastic speakers as well. And most importantly, I met Timber, the Metro Parks support puppy. Timber deserving of all the treats. Very good boy. Got a lot of loving from Timber. He was perhaps one of the highlights of the night. For me, not that I didn't enjoy the speakers, but I do love playing with other people's dogs. It sounds weird, I know. But it's late. I haven't had much sleep, and I wanted to get this episode up tonight on Tax Day on April 15th. You might be listening to it on Wednesday. That's fine. We had a great lineup of speakers to talk about the need to reform the tax code, to abolish the state income tax, to, abolish the federal income tax, and certainly to extend the Trump tax cuts, all put together by a coalition of great conservative organizations in Northwest Ohio, including Americans for Prosperity, who I'm proud to have on board as an official sponsor of the podcast. Thank you for inviting me out to MC the event in the chilly weather. So we're going to share some conversations I had after the event with some of the speakers. I didn't have a chance to catch up with everybody, but I did have a chance to speak with Derek Marin, State Rep Josh Williams, Kyle from Americans for Prosperity, Craig Riddell. Hopefully I'm getting his name right this time. He told me after the event and after the interview that I was pronouncing his name wrong, the German pronunciation, which I'm quite confident. If you know the show, you know me, you know I am horrible with pronouncing names. So I apologize, Craig. We'll get you back on for a full episode very soon, I promise. So these are some conversations, very short conversations I had with those guys after the lineup of events. I'm going to give them to you all raw and unedited, live from Wildwood Metro Parks, the Protect Prosperity Tax Day Rally with Americans for Prosperity. We're at the Protect Prosperity Tax Day Rally. Obviously, this is not live, but you'll hear it one day this week. Kyle Miller from Americans for Prosperity is joining. A great turnout tonight in the cold weather.
I was really happy, especially given the weather, and we had a venue change because of the weather. Yeah. So, yeah, I was pretty impressed.
There are so many people there. And I got to be honest, this is embarrassing. It's my first time to Wildwood Metro Park. This may shock you, but I'm not a walk through the park kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I should. Well, the Metro Parks here are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I was in the military for 9 years, and I walked through a lot of parks, so to speak. And so
you need me to grab your rucksack?
Yeah, I was like, you know what, my walking days are over too, so I'm right there with you.
So let's go through some of the people who are here speaking about taxes and how evil taxes can be.
Yeah. Well, the one who finished us up there, I thought he had a lot of great points. Representative Josh Williams. He was kind of echoing everybody who's here is coming at taxes from a different perspective. But one thing he said that we definitely share a perspective in is the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. And he had mentioned that it needs to be, because it's going to expire this year, if not renewed. It needs to not only be renewed, but like enshrined into the DNA of our laws. So that way it's a new floor of how low we are on taxes, and then just go lower from there, right? So
I think we all do have one common perspective, and that's we don't want to keep paying high taxes.
Yeah, and if you enshrine it into law instead of setting these sunset dates on it, then now whoever wants to undo those taxes, whoever wants to raise those taxes, you got to run on that. So this is a really good opportunity now that Republicans have control of the Senate and the House, however slim the majorities might be. Right. Let's take this time now, because the closer we get to the elections next year, the harder it's going to be to make those hard votes.
And part of the message was not just the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, not just the Trump tax cuts, but also how we can reform the tax code on a state level. It's interesting. I talked to Americans for Prosperity in Mississippi. I'm doing some radio shows in Mississippi, and I talked to Starla down there, the 601 Project, and the state of Mississippi just completely eliminated their state income tax. And we've got to move forward in that direction in Ohio as well.
Yeah, no, we've done a good job over the past few years of inching our way forward there. We eliminated, I think it was 2 tax brackets last year. We got a great bill up in the House right now that would take us to a flat tax. I think it's 2.75% flat tax, and I think that is the next stepping stone to move towards that flat tax, because that allows our state government time to rein in their spending that they've been doing and kind of get off of that medication that they're used to getting a dose of all the time, So reining in the spending and then deciding what they really exist for instead of all the pet projects and tax abatements and stuff.
It forces the government, state, local, federal, to cut frivolous programs, stimulates the economy, creates jobs, allows companies to reinvest in their product.
Yes, and it's a domino effect. I used to not see this, but after working here for so long, I see that what happens in Mississippi, it does affect Ohio, because you can use it as precedence. Look, it worked over here, now let's try it over there. And honestly, Ohio, with being a conservative state that has a majority in the Senate, a majority in the House, and the governor's seat, we can lead the nation on that domino effect. We don't always have to wait till the other people do it. So we're trying to embolden our elected officials to take bigger steps, and they've been doing that, especially this General Assembly.
It makes the state more competitive to attracting businesses and people into the state as well, if we do it before all of our neighbors.
Absolutely. An interesting fact for you, I forget the exact amount. I don't want anybody to fact check me afterwards, but the revenue that the government has brought in since we have eliminated the tax brackets in Ohio has only gone up. It hasn't gone down. So they've had even more money because more people are coming here to start their businesses, start their families. So that's more tax money for them.
Cal, thanks for having me out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
State Rep Josh Williams, Derek Marin, we're live at the Protect Prosperity Rally, which you will hear later in the week. But both of you guys did a great job talking about the importance of reforming and eliminating the income tax on both the federal and state level. Derek, I'll start with you. This was something you worked on for a long time at the state legislature.
Hey, Scott, thanks for being here today. This was a great rally of liberty-minded people that want to see tax reforms and reduction of taxes, not in our nation and also in our state. And we've got to extend the Trump tax cuts, make them permanent. I think we need to go farther, lower taxes more at the federal level. And ultimately, I don't even support having a federal income tax or a state income tax. When our country and state were founded, we didn't have taxes on income, and we got to transition away from those. So I've fought in the legislature for a long time to push us in that direction, and we still have a ways to go.
This is audio only, so you can't see the visual of this. The microphone is at the right height from me, but both of these guys are having to bend over at their waist to get down to the mic stand. State Rep Josh Williams, you and I had this conversation about taxes the other day on the podcast as well, and kind of taking the mantle one step further, you talked about the legislative resolution calling on Congress at a federal level to make the Trump tax cuts permanent.
Yeah, Scott, so thanks for being here. It was a great turnout today. People braved the weather to come out and show support here on Tax Day for tax reform here in the state of Ohio and across the nation. Yeah, we introduced House Concurrent Resolution 8, which will call on our fellow representatives to pass that resolution, calling on Congress to permanently enshrine in the tax cuts, the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act into permanent law, enshrining it into the DNA of this very nation. We know what the outcomes were of those tax cuts. We saw the prosperity that it brought. We saw the jobs that it created. We saw the relief that it gave to average Americans and Ohioans. And we even saw it bring back record number of investments from trillions of dollars that were being stored overseas in countries that had lower tax rates than America. And we saw that investment. We saw it work. And we're going to be calling on our colleagues in Congress to pass laws to make sure that goes into permanent law here in the United States. So hopefully we'll get it out of the House here when we resume in 2 weeks, get it over to the Senate so it can be done before summertime, asking for our congressional delegation here in the state of Ohio to permanently enshrine the Trump tax cuts into permanent law.
You know, I would like to see the tax cuts create at least one more job, if possible, sometime this year. Just purely for my and all of this, the Trump tax code and the plan is much better than the Biden tax code, which is how much did you make, send it in.
Listen, I mean, the Democrats and Biden, they have an insatiable appetite for people's hard-earned money. You know, they encourage people not to work, but then those that are working hard, they want to basically, you know, take half their income away from them. And, you know, it's not how our country was founded. We need to encourage people to be productive. We need to encourage people to work. And when you're trying to take half people's money from them, I mean, it's a disincentive. So, you know, we've got to get people working more, and we've got to let people keep more of the money and benefit their lives. You know, people want to take their kids to piano lessons or to go out to eat more, you know, retire at a decent age. And this issue is what I talked about today, Scott. It's about freedom. Okay, because the more money you have, the more opportunities that you have, the more freedom you have to do stuff. This isn't just about marginal tax rate. It's about we have more money in our pockets, we have more prosperity, we have more freedom to live the life that we want.
Something you both can talk about, Josh, I'll throw it to you first. I mean, what argument do your Democratic opposition have in the House at a federal level? How do they stand there and argue to take more money out of our pockets to spend it on some of these programs? How is that justifiable?
Yeah, so a lot of my Democrat colleagues would just justify it as we have an obligation to take care of our fellow Americans that can't take care of themselves. But let's get to the root cause. The Democrat Party wants to create individuals that are dependent on government because that creates a power structure for them. Every election cycle, they get more and more people hooked on government programs that they're going to be dependent on, and then they will go and tell them that, you know, the Republicans are going to take these programs away in order to get their vote. It's a way of maintaining political power. It's not about just providing for the poor. It's literally to take from the average worker and spread that wealth around and redistribute it and make programs that are going to be reliant. They want you to not be able to purchase your own home. They want you to rely on them for government housing. They don't want you to be able to buy your own cars. They want you to rely on them for public transportation. They don't want you to have your own 401k. They want you to rely on Social Security. They want you to be dependent on them so they can threaten that the Republicans are going to take it away to maintain political power in this country, and Americans have had enough. We want independence. We want autonomy. We want to have the ability to climb the socioeconomic ladder on our own without the government's boot on our neck as we try to climb that ladder.
You know, there are probably social programs that you could justify. You can look at some of the recipients of Medicaid, Social Security, that are programs that should be protected, but they're also being dramatically abused. And there should be an alternative to some of these programs. And as we've talked about before with both of you, when the economy has thrived, you don't have to rely on the government to take care of other people. You can thrive on your own.
See, the issue is some of these programs disincentivize you from being able to get off of them. So when you have Medicaid that has lifelong eligibility and you make $1 over an income threshold and you're cut off, it disincentivizes you getting that overtime pay, working to get a promotion, trying to transition jobs, because if you make $1 over, you're going to lose so much in benefits. These programs that the government are putting in disincentivize individuals from being able to truly strive for the American dream. And that's why you saw here in the state of Ohio, we pushed for a work requirement for Medicaid. You'll see out of the House's budget, I personally pushed for a secondary amendment to put in for a waiver that will require a workforce development requirement. So if you've been on Medicaid for 12 consecutive months under the work requirement and you haven't dug yourself out of poverty yet, we're going to add on an additional condition. You undergo workforce development training through one of our free programs so we can get you the micro credentials, the marketable skills, so you can transition into a job where you won't need government assistance. Well, guess who voted against that? Every one of the Democrats in my chamber. Every single Democrat voted against that because they don't believe you should be able to force anyone to do anything but collect a check.
Do you feel a groundswell of momentum moving towards getting some of these reforms done now?
I think so. And Scott, the reality is the federal government is out of money. They're out of money. Even if you just did an excellent job explaining how a lot of these federal programs the Democrats are trying to make people dependent on the government. Okay, they're not worried about what's best for them. They want people dependent on the politicians of the federal government. But even if you think those programs are good, we can't afford a lot of them. I mean, we're approaching a $2 trillion deficit annually. We've never had this type of deficit spending in our country like this. Over $35 trillion in national debt. You have to balance the budget, okay? And I talk about this all throughout my congressional campaign. What you're seeing is the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. The dollar is worth less every year, and it's got to stop. I mean, the biggest things that the federal government can do is if they would just reduce spending at a reasonable level and balance the budget, it would do so much good and bring confidence back to the economy, the bond market, the stock market, and everyone, because it's like our government has to get its fiscal house in order.
It's as if everybody has forgotten what it's like to try to budget at home with a $50,000 a year income. It's just a completely foreign concept to them now. I'll let you guys go back to your pizza and mingling and shaking hands. Derek Marin, Josh Williams. We'll talk more in depth on the podcast. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Also here at the Protect Prosperity Rally is Craig Riddell. Craig, it's nice to meet you.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Thanks for having me.
You're running for Ohio Senate District 1.
Yep.
Can you get anything done? I mean, there's a lot, obviously, as we're talking about tax reform and cutting taxes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
There definitely is. To answer your question, yes, absolutely. You can get the opportunity to get things done is very much real. And I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. You know, Ohio, we only have 33 state senators. And, you know, I'm a Republican, and we have a supermajority currently in the General Assembly in both chambers, the House and the Senate. And, you know, this works out. We get this opportunity to go to Columbus. You know, I'll be in the supermajority. And that means about 5 of us out of the 33 senators, you know, will dictate the pace and the sort of legislation that's going to move forward. You know, I'm very optimistic about what's going to happen in Ohio. You can see it happening. Conservative, you know, legislation. You know, it looks like Vivek Ramaswamy's got a ton of momentum right now. You know, I know when I listen to Vivek speak, my political beliefs are very much in alignment with his. So I really look forward to what's about to happen to the state of Ohio, and it's going to be terrific. It's going to be something really, really great for our state.
I had to apologize to Derek and Josh for making them bend down to get to the microphone, so I apologize. It's kind of an awkward setup here, but thank you for coming by. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
It's the first time, it's our first date, and I mean, we already got off on the wrong foot because you're an Ohio State guy.
Yeah. So, Scott, I grew up on a farm in Seneca County, little small village called Attica, which is east of Tiffin. Grew up with 3 brothers. We all graduated from a small high school called Seneca East. All 4 of us graduated from Ohio State, where I earned a civil engineering degree. In 1988, I married.
Maybe they need to engineer that national championship trophy a little bit better for the vice president.
They need a little more glue, don't they?
And look, so whoever was staffing the vice president yesterday failed him.
Definitely.
Everybody who's a college football fan knows you take the trophy off the base stays put. Somebody failed J.D. Vance.
Yeah, no doubt. That's funny.
But I mean, when you don't get to win a national championship as often as, say, Alabama, you may not be familiar with the trophy.
Well, hey, I think we're going to be professionals at this here in another year or two. So
how big was your farm?
The farm? Small, about 35 acres. Yep, so we boarded standard-bred horses on the farm. Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of radio shows filling in Mississippi, and that's obviously an agricultural state. We've got a lot of agriculture in Ohio. Tell me what kind of concerns your district, Senate District 1, might have as we're in this tariff showdown right now, and how that may affect small farms like yours.
Well, you know, certainly, agriculture is the number one industry in the state of Ohio. The Senate district that I'm running in is predominantly, rural Ohio, very conservative part of the state. We talked tonight about property taxes, right? And certainly these property taxes, the increases have hit our farming community very hard. It's crushed senior citizens that are living on fixed incomes, and I mentioned young families trying to get in the housing market is becoming more difficult because of rising property taxes. But our farming community, we need strong farms in Ohio. They're running a business too. They're trying to make the balance. Yeah,
it's the backbone of America.
And they got to pay taxes just like everybody else, and they got to put food on their table. We need them to be successful. For our all well-being. And I'm confident that I'm not in the General Assembly at this moment, but I know that they're working on.
That's no excuse.
Yeah, well, I'm talking to my representative. I tell you, I promise you, I am. But I know they're working on some good things, and I'm confident they're going to find a solution.
I think I hear it in the crowd that we had tonight at the Protect Prosperity rally. I think people are perhaps even more mad about the property taxes that we've got going on right now than anything else. I mean, obviously, we all want to pay less taxes in general. We want the government to spend our money more wisely, but property taxes are pissing everybody off.
Yeah, everybody, and it's impacting everyone. Right? I mean, nobody's exempt from this, and like I said, I'm confident that representatives like Josh Williams and his peers, they're going to find a solution to this. They have to, right? And they will. Yep.
Greg, nice to meet you. Let's do a full episode of the podcast soon when we don't have everybody running around eating pizza.
Okay, that sounds great. And we'll stick to subject. We'll stay away from the Buckeyes.
Oh no. We're going to talk football.
Okay, all right. Let's bring it on.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Scott.
There you go, raw and unedited after the event at Wildwood Metro Parks. Thanks again to Americans for Prosperity for inviting me out to record these interviews and to MC the events of the night. We'll be back with a real podcast episode probably on Friday. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. Find me at The Scott Sands Show. On X, I am at Scott Sands Media. Have a great Tuesday night or a great Wednesday morning whenever you're listening to this. We'll be back soon.